today we'll explore Lynx, which I've never heard of before, which I've never seen before. I have no idea how it works. I have not worked with it at all, but it's great because it's an alternative to React Native. And that's not great because React Native would be bad or because we desperately needed an alternative, in my opinion. That's not the case, but it's great because last week in my last stream, I tried building a mobile app with React Native and Expo with help of AI. I put AI in the driver's seat and let it do its thing. I tried some vibe coding, as it's called, and that did not work out too well. If you were part last week, if you joined the stream, you know. If you did not, you can of course give my VOD a try. You find those on youtube.com/@Maximilian-extended, and today's stream will also be made available there. So last week we failed with React Native, or AI failed with React Native, to be precise. This week I'm interested in Lynx, this new React Native alternative, because as I mentioned, I don't feel like we really need an alternative, though competition, of course, in general never hurts. And maybe Lynx is awesome. Maybe it gives us some features we didn't know we were missing from React Native, or maybe some features we knew we wanted in React Native. So we'll see how that is. But it came quite as a surprise to me, and I guess to most people, because React Native is pretty good, I would say, especially with Expo, which is the default nowadays. But yeah, we'll see what Lynx is and how it works. And yeah, I can already see in the chat, no more frameworks, it's enough. Yeah, I'm also getting those late 2010s vibes again, like 2000, I guess, 15 to 2019, where we saw lots of new front-end JavaScript frameworks. Now I'm getting some vibes of that with Lynx. Though, to be fair, it's not like we're getting new mobile app development frameworks every day. But yeah, as I said, I also did not have the feeling that we desperately needed that, but we'll see. Maybe it's super amazing. So yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for joining in. Sending some warm sunshine from Florida. Yeah, thank you, man. And I will say it's super warm here in Germany too, finally. I mean, super warm for spring. It has like, I guess, 15 degrees Celsius, which is, I don't know, more in Fahrenheit. But yeah, first warm week of the year. Really lovely to have some sunshine, and that's amazing. Hello back to Denmark. So yeah, let's dive in. Let's explore Lynx. Next, who can, yeah, those three especially, they really tried hard to like have not too much variation there, I guess. So let's jump in. And as I said, this is really like a blind let's code, I guess. I have not worked with it at all, have not tried it, don't know anything about it. All I know is that it's also, like React Native, it's like a JavaScript mobile app development solution, framework, tool, whatever you want to call it. Will Claude 3.7 and Cursor Agent Mode one-shot a real-world billion-dollar app now? Though, I'll be honest, if they do, I would be sad to do it on stream. I would rather do that on my own, but I'm not too convinced that this will happen. And regarding course updates, Eric, yeah, I do have more course updates planned. I don't really like to promise too much publicly because life can always get into your ways. But yeah, I do have more course updates planned for this year. For native modules, do you recommend C++ for both Android and iOS, or a separate Swift Objective-C Kotlin component? So, to be perfectly honest, for all the React Native work I did, I never really had to write significant amounts of native code. So whenever I did, I just went with the Swift or Java Kotlin solutions. Actually, it was Java for me. It's that long ago already. So I might be the wrong person to ask here. What is this? This is Lynx, and we'll explore it in a second. It's an alternative to React Native, a JavaScript framework for building mobile apps. And do you work out? Yes, I do, at least occasionally. Maybe you can see it, maybe not. But occasionally, I try my best. So let's dive in. I'm on Lynx.js.org. And let's see what they tell us about Lynx there. Write once, render anywhere. So we've heard that before. It's like the main pitch of React Native 2 and also of Flutter, for example. The idea is that you have like one code base and then you can build an iOS app, an Android app, as it seems also a web app. It's also possible with React Native, though it's not been the focus of React Native in the past, but it's more and more becoming a thing there. And then for Flutter, I guess it's like 10,000 platforms, where some of those don't really work that well, but yeah. Performance at scale. Achieve instant launch and silky UI responsiveness via our multi-threaded engine, whether standalone or embedded. Yeah, that's one thing I read, I think, on X in the first post where I heard about Lynx, that the idea is that Lynx is truly multi-threaded. And for React Native, that's not the case. It's single-threaded JavaScript. And of course, multi-threaded does not automatically mean better performance. You have to use it right to get a performance boost. But of course, it's possible. So maybe they have like a super amazing behind-the-scenes architecture that gives you great performance. So I think, I'm not sure, isn't Lynx by... I don't want to say anything wrong, but isn't that by ByteDance? Like the TikTok company? Not sure. The Lynx team. Who's the Lynx team? Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out along the way. They do have a release blog post, I guess, so we can go through that too before we dive into the actual docs. Today, we're excited to introduce a Lynx. I'll not read it all because it's pretty long. I'll just skip over it, right? But today, we're excited to introduce Lynx, a family of technologies empowering developers to use their existing web skills to create truly native UIs for both mobile and web from a single code base. That's what we have before. For diverse use cases, rich interactivity, Lynx delivers vibrant and engaging UIs for large scales app like TikTok. Yeah, so I believe it pretty much seems like it is by the people behind TikTok. Featuring a speedy, versatile rendering engine, performance-driven, dual-threaded UI programming, modern Rust-based tooling, and more. So that's their pitch. Got quite a few buzzwords in there. Rust mentioned, so we gotta have great performance, don't we? Dual-threaded, that's the multi-threading as it seems. I'm not sure. I don't think we, as the developers building the UI, have to do something to use that. I guess it's just multi-threaded automatically behind the scenes, offloading certain tasks to extra threads. So that we probably have one thread for the UI updating stuff and one thread for communication with native modules, native APIs, stuff like that. That would be my guess. I don't know though. So what do we have here? Yeah, so we don't want to have like a blank screen whilst we're waiting for data. We don't want to have lags. That's all bad. So that's why we need native performance and why we don't want, basically we don't want, that's what they're saying, I guess, we don't want like a web app loaded in a web view that's embedded into a mobile app, but we want to have native components, native APIs doing work behind the scenes, which is also the case for React Native for most parts. And it's also like the thing with Lynx, I guess. Yeah, TikTok is amazing, of course. Inspire and enrich the web community. Therefore, shaping for cross-platform since 2008. PhoneGap, which was then renamed to Cordova. Strive to keep the web as a cross-platform solution. Yeah, so the idea behind Cordova, of course, is essentially what Ionic also does that you have a mobile app, and that mobile app really only has an embedded browser, you could say. Not really a browser, just a container that can load HTML pages like a browser does. And then you load a web page into it, and therefore you have a web page as a mobile app, but it's actually just like a container in that's the mobile app, and then you have a website in there, the same website you could load in a browser on your Mac, on your PC. And then that's also important to say, though, with Ionic and Cordova, Cordova in the end was used behind the scenes by Ionic, and then they released their own thing. But the idea there is not just that you can load a web page, but that you also have ways of communicating with the underlying platform, with the underlying device and the native APIs there. So it also gave you that bridge. So they mentioned that. Then we have React Native, which pioneered bridging native UI with web technologies, because in React Native, you really do end up with native UI components. So you don't have a web view running a website. Instead, you use web technologies, but the UI elements you use in there, they are really translated to the native equivalents for iOS and Android, so to say. So a button you have in a React Native app is really is the native iOS button on iOS and the native Android button on Android. That's the idea. Your logic in JavaScript stays JavaScript, though, and runs basically in, you could say, in some kind of container that's communicating with the UI. So your JavaScript code is not compiled to machine code or anything like that. Flutter is a bit different. The idea behind Flutter is that they essentially compile all the code to machine code, and then they draw every pixel on the screen. So you don't get an iOS button and an Android button, but instead you get a brand new drawing on the screen, so to say. That's how Flutter handles that. And Lynx follows a similar spirit. I don't know which similar to what. To Flutter? You can think of it as an alternative web tailored for app development. It aims to honor the assets of web technologies while taking an opinionated approach, supporting web-like APIs and adding constraints and extensions with clear intent. So the way this is written, I would assume they mean similar to Flutter. I'm not sure if they also bring their own custom rendering engine where they draw all the pixels. To me, it sounds like they do. I might be wrong here, though. We want an operating system written in JavaScript. Oh, you want to see the world burn, I guess. Expo is like capacitor. Expo is not really like capacitor. Expo, so nowadays, Expo is so much. It's essentially a bunch of tools that help you with building mobile apps. It's a bunch of packages that you can bring into your React Native Expo app to gain easy access to native APIs and so on. It's not really a lot of components, some components, but it's not. Yeah, I mean, it also has routing and gives you components for that, but it's really about like wiring all the things together, you could say. It's not about loading a website in a web view, which is what Capacitor does. So that's not what Expo does. Before I forget, huge thanks for updating the TypeScript course for free. So kind. Yeah, Holger, thank you so much for the shout out. In case you missed, this week I released a huge free update for my TypeScript course, which you find on Udemy and also on Academy Pro. I kept some parts of the old course, but re-recorded some sections, added some new sections, picked up tons of student feedback, tried to make the course better than it was ever before, incorporated some missing features that I did not have in the old course because they were added after the old course was released, for example. So yeah, if you are an existing student, you got the update for free. If you're not, now's the best time, of course, to get this course. And if you enter acadlink/TypeScript, you'll be forwarded to the course on Udemy with a coupon automatically applied to it. That just a little advertisement for my update here. Hey Max Bro, what's going on? Do you plan to release a course on Nest.js and up to your Node.js course? Nest.js is not really planned. Node.js course update is something I do want to do. Yeah, definitely. Guten Abend, Maximilian, please incorporate React 19 features in your Udemy course. My Udemy React course is all about React 19. It's fully updated for React 19. The day React 19 became stable, I pushed out a huge update, which I prepared in advance to update all the parts of the course that needed updating for React 19. So if you want to learn React 19, my React course, the complete guide, teaches you. So yeah, you already have that, which is great, I guess. Good. So back to Lynx. Craft designs with markups and CSS as usual. So finally, some code. So I read on X that we used JSX to build our Lynx UI. It's not React. It's JSX. JSX is, of course, not exclusive to React. You can also use it with Vue, with Solid.js. Actually, many frameworks and libraries support JSX nowadays. So this is JSX. It's not React. But then at the same time, we seem to be importing something from their own version of React. Not sure what that is. Like a fork of React to get some APIs we know from React. I'm not sure. So the idea is that we build a UI with elements that are not React components or not React elements, not native HTML elements. And these are also not the elements we know from React Native, by the way, because if we take a look at the React Native docs, there we also have a Vue component, for example, which you can use as a generic container. And there it's called Vue with a capital V, and you need to import it from React Native if you want to use that in a React Native app. Here in Lynx, it seems to be called Vue with a lowercase v, and I see no import for that here. So looks like it's like the HTML elements in a React app, which you also don't need to import. Looks like it works the same here. And then we can apply styles, which have names inspired by CSS. So just as in React Native, this is not CSS, I guess. It's namings that are inspired by CSS. And I would guess you can use many, but definitely not all CSS properties here. I might be wrong, though. Allow developers to write markup in CSS just as they would for the web. Yeah, I guess like the syntax is similar, but it's not all the CSS features, I would guess. Lynx natively supports CSS animations and transitions. Nice. CSS selectors and variables for theming. Good. And modern CSS visual effects like gradients, clipping, and masking. Okay. Yeah, so we can see how that looks here. Yeah. Good. And this root thing, which is imported, is used to like render this app component. And like the component, of course, this looks like React, right? It's just a function that returns JSX. So inspired by React and all those other JSX libraries and frameworks we have. And then some hot reloading code, I guess. Okay, use the main thread responsibly for interactivity. One of Lynx's most notable architectural decisions is its statically enforced division of user scripting into two distinct runtimes. So two main threads, I guess. A main thread runtime powered by Prim.js, which I don't know. A custom JavaScript engine, okay. Specifically optimized for Lynx. So basically like an alternative to V8, I guess, which powers Chrome and Node.js. Or the one from React Native, which Hermes, I guess, is the name. Dedicated to privileged synchronous UI tasks, like initial launch and high priority event handling. And okay, so we have one runtime for all the UI stuff, and then we get a background runtime, the second thread, as a default for user code, ensuring the main thread remains low workload and non-blocking. Okay, so the idea is that basically all the non-UI code we write is automatically pushed to that background thread so that it doesn't interfere with all the updates, animations, and so on that might happen on the main thread, the UI thread. And therefore, we got instant first frame rendering, if rendering is fast enough, and Lynx is. No special intermediate feedback is needed. By briefly blocking the main thread until the first frame is fully rendered, Lynx eliminates blank screens. Okay, so the idea here, and that sounds promising, is that essentially Lynx blocks rendering on the main thread for one, not for one frame, for a very short period of time. I would guess micro milliseconds, something like that. And that should be enough to like prepare everything to render the UI so that you never have like a brief blank screen pop up whilst the app loads, which is of course nice. Main thread scripting, a small statically scheduled piece of code privileged to run on the main thread, handles high priority events and gestures, making it ideal for implementing silky smooth, highly responsive interfaces that feel native. Yeah. So the idea behind the threads is of course performance, to like have one thread that can really like power the user interface and give us snappy animations and all that stuff. And it makes sense since this is by the people who built TikTok, or since this is, as it seems, used at least in parts of the TikTok app. Obviously performance matters to them because TikTok is not the smallest app in the world, and obviously they want to provide a good user experience to their millions or billions, I don't know, of users. Yeah, okay, then they're showing us how snappy that all is. Internally, we've seen surfaces migrating from web to Lynx. Okay, because their runtime is so fast, even faster than what we previously had like in the web. Okay, Lynx was originally developed by an engineering team of ByteDance. Okay, so what I said before. As a significant user of Lynx, TikTok recognizes the innovation and potential of Lynx and has been making extensive use of it in a series of TikTok applications. Okay. And now it's open source, it's production ready, it already powers an incredible number of businesses. And yeah, I guess they'll continue to work on it, and we can now also dive into it. Stephen, I do not have a course about Alpine.js. Yeah, Holger, you're right. Courses are quite a lot of work. You only like see a small part, like 10 hours of video output is obviously way more in preparation, recording, editing, quality checks, and all that stuff. So much appreciated. Thank you so much. How long and much effort does it take you to update a course? Yeah, Igor, I just said it, or I didn't read your question before that. So yeah, it's a lot of work. Like the TypeScript course update, which is, I guess, around 12 hours of video footage, probably took me. I did not work like every day 10 hours on it. I like have multiple projects at the same time, so hard to tell. But I started work last year, and I'd say you can easily multiply the number of videos I generate as output by 5 to 10, depending on the complexity of the topic, to get the amount of input work. And it's also not the case that you can then say, okay, that's, let's say, 80 hours, so 10 days, that's not too bad. Because, of course, I can't sit there and record for 4 hours straight. Like, you have to break things up. And it might even be more than a factor 10, to be honest, because you have to throw away stuff. The whole release process takes up some time. So, yeah, it does take multiple weeks at least, definitely. Do you know how to unit test Lynx components? Absolutely not. I have not played around with Lynx at all. I don't know anything about it at all. We'll find out together. Can you talk about the tech scene in Germany and in-demand tech stacks in cities like Berlin, Munich, startup culture? I would love to. I'm just absolutely not part of the German tech scene. I'm not that kind of networking person, I'm afraid. It would probably help me a lot if I were, but I'm not. So it's been a long time since I've part of some tech scene. I'm very sorry. I can't share any valuable insights here. And harsh, yep, React 19 is included in the Udemy course. Regarding the progressive web app course, I have no updates planned for that, unfortunately, right now. Sorry. Okay, so let's dive in. Quick start. Create a new Lynx project with RSpeedy, an RSpack-based Lynx tool. So I know RSpack. RSpack is like Webpack built with Rust, basically meant as a, I think, replacement for Webpack, a modern replacement, giving us way better performance than Webpack. Pretty exciting project, to be honest. And they're using it in Lynx projects, as it seems. And we use this tool, which I've never heard of before, to create a project. So I'll do just that. I'll bring up my terminal here. Let me zoom in. And I'll quickly navigate into my streams folder, create a new project with npm create rspeedy at latest. For the name, I'll use Lynx exploration. Yeah, sure, let's use TypeScript. I'll add prettier. Okay, so that's that. Prepare Lynx Explorer. Lynx Explorer is a sandbox for trying out Lynx quickly. So I guess like Expo Go, which is like an app you can install, which makes it a bit easier to load in development Expo apps whilst you're working on them. So yeah, I'll use the iOS simulator here. Install Xcode, I already have that, and it should be updated. Download Lynx Explorer. So we download an app they prepared for us. I'll use the ARM64 version since I'm on an ARM Mac here. Extract it. I'll quickly do that off screen. You can also just click on it, but yeah, you can also run these commands. Install Lynx Explorer on simulator, open Xcode, choose Open Developer Tool, click the simulator, launch one, drag the downloaded app file into it. Okay. So let's start Xcode. Whoops. Xcode, Open Developer Tool, Simulator. Here we go. Can I? Yeah, okay. Here we go. Let me drag this into it, this app I just downloaded, dragged and dropped it into my simulator, and now it should install it there, I guess. Here it is. And start developing. Enter the created project, install dependencies, and run dev server. Okay, so I'll quickly do that in a code editor. So I'll open this project with VS Code. Could of course also use cursor, but I don't want too much AI assistance here. It probably won't be too helpful anyways, I would guess, since it shouldn't know too much about Lynx. It's totally new. And we'll explore what we have here in a second. For the moment, I'll open my terminal here, run npm install to install the dependencies, and then npm run dev thereafter. Say something in Deutsch, never heard that. Please, maybe a phrase. Heute war schönes Wetter. That meant today we had beautiful weather. So there you go. That was German. npm run dev. And okay, I got a QR code. Not sure what I'll do with that. You will see a QR code showing up in a terminal. Scan with your Lynx Explorer app. So I don't know how I should scan it with the app that's running on my simulator. There also is no scan button. I can enter a URL. Do I have one? Yeah. So let's try this URL. Yeah, that looks good, I guess. Tap the logo and have fun. Okay. React on Lynx. So we do use React as it seems, but with extra JSX elements that are not standard web elements, I guess. So that's running, and I'll briefly check app TSX here. Tap the logo and have fun. Yeah, so that's what we see down here. So looks like that really is the app. Let me try. If I change something here, and I got this development server up and running. So if I save this, my expectation would be that it updates, and yeah, got all the exclamation marks here as well. So that works the way I would expect it to work. Great. Great. Whoops, what did I do here? Great. Yeah, I don't need that anymore. Thank you very much. And I want to bring over my docs here. Make your first change. We already did that. Debugging, visit Lynx DevTool to download and open Lynx DevTool. Yeah, we don't need that right now. It'll all work flawlessly, I'm sure. Next steps is the official React framework. React Lynx is the official React framework designed specifically for Lynx. So it's like a React version, I guess like a forked React version adapted for Lynx. So let's walk through the tutorial, shall we? Can you share the name of the tool you use for screen annotations? Yeah, that is this tool here. It's called Demo Pro. I think it's like a macOS only tool, to be honest. Recently finished exploring and learning about React Native, and we already have Lynx. Wow. Yeah, bad timing though, to be honest. Like we did not have any React Native alternatives until Lynx, I guess. So of course we have Ionic and Flutter, and these are alternatives, but they all they work in very different ways, and they're not like React JSX specific. Flutter has its totally own language, and then Ionic supports different frameworks. So Lynx is the first one, I guess, that's very similar to React Native, as it seems. And by the way, why is this page loading for ages? I just want to go to the tutorial. Is this the multi-threading kicking in? Do they use it on the web too, and we got like this amazing performance there? Okay. Tutorial. Like, is my internet in general? No, it's not so slow. Maybe everyone's giving Lynx a try, and now their website is down. Okay, so maybe we can explore other documentation pages. Well, I did not guess the stream to fail like this, that the website would be down. I could totally see that we failed to like get the app to run, but the website? Okay. Opened it in a new tab, and there it's working. So we'll go with that. Okay, product gallery. We will build a product gallery page together during this tutorial. This tutorial does not assume any existing Lynx knowledge. The techniques you'll learn in the tutorial are fundamental to building any Lynx pages and applications. This tutorial is designed for people who prefer to learn by doing and want to quickly try making something tangible. If you prefer learning each concept, which I generally do, I'm more of the type of person that dives into the API docs and does not bother with tutorials like this, but we'll give it a try here. So what are we building? We'll basically build like a TikTok-like app, I guess, with furniture images. Yeah, so we are all set up. Since the focus of this tutorial is not on how to style your UI, you may just save some time and directly copy the below index CSS file. So that's interesting. I thought they would only support like their own adaptation of CSS. Now it seems like they're really supporting CSS as a whole, which would be a whole different thing. That's not the case in React Native. So that's really interesting. I'm not 100% sure if they support everything, but definitely interesting. And thank you so much for the subscription. Uppermost, thank you so much. I should change that color. I can barely read it there. Thank you so much. Good, so we'll copy those styles. By the way, I use the same approach in my courses if they're not about CSS, which most courses aren't. I'll just prepare the styles in advance because no one wants to write all that, so we'll just grab that. And thank you so much, Pilmos, for the subscription. I'll just quickly open like a separate screen where I can read that all a bit better. Oh, we got the hype train started. I still don't know what it is, but it sounds exciting. Let me quickly go. Where is this? Here. Okay, yeah, now I can see it. Awesome. Good. So, back to CSS. What they tell me to do is I should add an index CSS file and add all those styles into it. I currently don't have one, if I'm not blind. So I'll add one, index CSS, and paste those styles into it. That looks like standard CSS to me, yeah. Interesting. This here is not, though. So I guess they have their own CSS version. Not sure. And import it as global styles. I'm not sure where to import it, but I guess into index CSS. At least that is what I'll do. Your first component, an image card. Now let's start by creating the first image card, which will be the main part of this page. Okay, so I should create a first image card. So they create a first image card folder in the source folder, and in there they have an index.tsx file. Not really the naming convention I'd like to have, so what I would rather do is create a components folder and have like an image card tsx file in there. And then I can copy that, but I then also want to explore that code to understand it. Oh, and they assume that I have some pictures, which interestingly enough are JSX files. And an image card component. Are we building that, or do they assume I have that? Or did I already mess something up and I should I have set up a different kind of project? No, that is the quick start I also went through. Weird. So where is image card coming from? Are we building that? Are we building that somewhere down here? I don't know. Doesn't look like we do. Okay, that's a great tutorial already. Where do I get the code here? Oh, okay. That's like that was not obvious to me. Oh wow, we got a bunch of stuff here. Can I? So the pictures from furniture's pictures JSX. Can I download all of that? Or how do I get this? Or okay, I guess I can go to GitHub. I could clone this. So I'm not sure. I'll just do that. I'll just clone it. I'll just clone it, open up Lynx examples in code 2, and then I can just copy that. Not sure if that's how I should do it, but it should work. So where are we? We are in gallery, right? We are in the gallery example, this one. Pictures, yeah, that looks good. So I'll just copy, I guess, the entire pictures folder into components maybe. And then I can adjust this here. So now we just have to dive into /pictures. Yeah, like this. And it's .jsx because after compiling this from TypeScript to JavaScript, it is JavaScript. And that's why we have to import JSX here. Just as with, if you're just using TypeScript and you're compiling it without like an extra build tool that might handle it differently, you also have to import from .js files, even though you're using TypeScript. Okay, so that's one thing. Now the image card component would also be nice to get. Components, no, image card. Okay. Okay, I named mine image card 2. Excuse me. So I will actually name it first image card here and rename this file to image card. And now I want to see what this code does. And why is this not working? Module has no default export, but it does. Oh, this is the import. Okay. So what do we have here? How does this image card component look like? So looks like a standard React component, of course, like a standard React component function. Got a function with a capitalized name. Got a props object as a parameter, which is an object which here seems to get a picture of type picture, which is this type, so which is an object with a source property and then width and height. And then we're extracting that from props. I guess we could also like do it like this. And then this is the interesting part to me here. We're returning elements that are not imported from anywhere. So view and image are not imported from Lynx or anything like that. They just exist here, just like H1 exists in a React web app. So that's interesting. And as I mentioned before, that is different compared to React Native, of course. And then we get the image here. Got some CSS class applied, probably one of the classes we have in here. Yeah, not sure. Doesn't matter. We have some class applied, got a style, aspect ratio, source. Yeah, not too difficult. And then in first image card, I'm importing that image card. Got it in a view with a different class. Here, I'm importing. So this tutorial is really, really weird. I mean, now here we're importing index.scss, which is a file we have not created. I mean, they tell us to import index.css here. Like, this is all over the place. Did they actually like read this tutorial before publishing it, or am I just too stupid to understand it? Like, this makes no sense here, this import, in my opinion. We're import, and I'm really triggered by names like this. Like, this component is named the way I know it from many React projects. We have like this Pascal case naming, and then here we suddenly have camel case, because why not? Let's mix it up. I guess this is because this is not like a component, but I would rather have like kebab case then. But it's just like a personal preference, of course. And like have this named pictures. If there is no component in there, why would you have like an uppercase character? Okay, so we're importing pictures. We're picking like the first picture of this array of pictures, and we're displaying this in an image card. That's what we're doing. Great, you can now see the image card displayed. No, I cannot, because I need to like include that. So I guess I can go to my starting app.tsx file and import my first image card. Oh, no, they are like, okay, they're handling this like a standalone app. So I could have just copied this into app.tsx then, right? So I guess what I can instead do in index.tsx, I can just root render first image card and import that. Import first image card from /components first image card. export it here, remove root render here, and remove this. Okay. And now, in theory, can I... Maybe if I restart this because it crashed. Okay. Module not found. Index.cs. Yeah, where is this? Oh, we got that here as well in the image card. Let's remove that. Okay, do I need to... Can I press some button to reload? No. So, is there some way of restarting this on the simulator? I guess not. So I'll just grab that URL again. Let me bring that over here. Grab that URL again and do it like this. Paste. Okay, now we got the chair. Okay, so that's working, but I will say, like, the learning experience here is not great. Or maybe I like skipped one step somewhere. But this is like the weirdest tutorial I've ever read. I think I will not continue with the tutorial and instead just dive into the other docs because, like, this is not too helpful. I rather want to go through like the docs here, understand which features are included, and not do it like this. Okay, I'll dive into the rest of the docs in a second. It's working for me. Okay, so maybe I skipped a step somewhere. Not sure. I mean, now it is working here too. Thank you so much for the awesome courses. Yeah, thank you so much, Uppermost. Thank you so much for the amazing feedback. Super happy that you're liking the courses and that you're like getting a lot out of them. Means a lot to me. Have you thought of making a course on data structures and algorithms, or something specific related to problem solving or competitive programming? So I have courses on data structures and algorithms on Academy Pro, just not on Udemy. They're exclusive to Academy Pro. Bit older, but then again, the topics don't change that much, I guess. So yeah, I have some courses on that, actually. I don't see anywhere that it supports Tailwind CSS. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Thus far, I'm struggling with the basic tutorial. Hey, Maximilian, thank you for being a great teacher. I would just go back to the start of the stream and watch it from the start. Thanks. Yeah, sure. And I will also upload the VOD tomorrow on YouTube / @Maximilian-extended. Good morning, MaxTabs and chat. How is it going? Great. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll explore Lynx here and see what we can do with that. So I had some troubles with the tutorial, so I'll not go through that step by step. Instead, we'll just take a look at the code here and see what we're working with, and then we can play around with it and build our own app. So what I have here is, of course, like standard React component. And what's really interesting is that they ship their own fork of React, as it seems. And I'm interested, if I dive into their GitHub repo, can I find out which version of React they are using internally? It's probably in a separate repository, though. React links. Do they have some version 0.105? Okay, so that's not too helpful. I'm just interested in, I want to find out which React version they locked in for their fork. If it's like version, so the types package is version 18. So that sounds like they're not using React 19, but 18, which of course is not bad, just interesting. Yeah, so looks like React 18 maybe. And then we can so I guess we can use all these React features then, right? So if I go back to app.tsx and I play around with that, so I'll bring back the app component here, get rid of the image card, and in there, we already are using useState, of course. So let me add like a text and set text state here. Use a fact. I know how that works. And then handle text change. Set text to changed. And initially it's hi there. And then how do I output text? Looks like there is a text element. So does this work? Do they have like a button? Looks like they do. And then it's on click or on tap. I don't know. Let's try it. Button not found. So I don't think they have a button. Okay, so we'll take a look at the docs to find out what they have. So I'll dive into the main docs here to learn about how we compose UIs and then maybe also which elements we have. More built-in elements. That sounds interesting. Oh, here they also explain what their elements get rendered to. Okay, so if you watched the stream from the beginning, when we read through their blog post, I mentioned that from that post, to me, it sounded like they're following the Flutter approach, where they have their own renderer and they render basically all the pixels on the screen, whereas React Native basically does what they're now showing on this screen. React Native takes your JSX elements and then translates them into the native equivalent, so into a UI view for iOS, for example, and then maybe a view group for Android. And I thought that Lynx would not follow the React Native approach, but the Flutter approach, which does not translate anything, but instead like draw all the pixels. But now this means that they're doing the same thing React Native does in the end. At least that is how I understand it, since that is behind the elements. So I guess if I want a button, I have to build it myself with a view and the text, and the blinds are coming up, but we'll see. Let's go back to the start of the page and go through it. Lynx defines content and structure using a markup language, with the most basic unit being an element tag. The concept of an element tag is similar to HTML elements, sure. Unlike HTML, Lynx uses some unique elements, element tags like view, text, and image. We saw those. Yeah, and we were already doing that, right? So actually, I can close this. We're outputting text here. The basic usage of the element tags is very similar. Okay, so that is very entry level. Sure, yeah, that is how you use an HTML tag too, or any XML tag, I guess. Each element tag consists of the following parts. Yeah, okay, attributes. So we can add attributes. For example, each element tag can use attributes such as style and class to set back, to style it essentially. For more attributes, refer to the API reference. Okay, so here I can see the built-in elements, and then I can see which attributes can be set there. This is really useful, something I do miss for some other frameworks, and I think even for React, I think React Native has API docs like this, but I always find them a bit harder to navigate. I like it if you like have a clear list of, hey, that's built in, and then for every element you have a list of things it supports. I like that a lot. You can have empty element tags with a self-closing tag. You can nest them, makes sense. And then just like React, it converts this like to a representation, like a virtual DOM. I'm not sure if they're using a virtual DOM, but they're building like a tree of objects in memory based on your JSX instructions. The view is the most basic element, commonly used to wrap other elements and carry some drawing capability. For example, the following code sets the entire view's background color to gray and adds some padding. Yeah, So just like you could use a div on a web page. Text is clear, image is clear, more built-in elements. Yeah, we saw that. Behind the scenes, they get translated to native equivalents. Yeah, we see the web equivalents. If built-in elements can't meet your needs, you can expand Lynx capabilities by implementing native elements customly. This is one of Lynx's powerful features. So I don't think they mean custom components, where we use what's already available and just recompose it, but they really mean like building new elements, right? Is that the case? Custom element. If the built-in elements do not meet your requirements, you can extend Lynx capabilities by creating custom native elements. This section will guide you through creating. Okay, so here we can learn how we can build our own custom Android, iOS, or web elements and then use them in Lynx, I guess. So yeah, we're now in Swift or Kotlin, Java, whatever we want to use. That's interesting. That is interesting. Looks quite advanced. And of course, in order to use that, you of course like need to know the underlying languages. So you need to learn some native app development, I guess. Of course, not all of it, but you need to understand how it generally works, or trust AIs, of course. But it's a cool feature that you're able to really create brand new elements, which you can then use in your Lynx code. So I guess like if you're done here, you really like have a new tag you can use, right? Yeah, so I guess you define your own tag somewhere. Not sure where. But you'll definitely do it somewhere, and then you can use it, right? So that's really interesting. Pretty amazing feature. So now they built their own input element here. Speaking of that, is there no built-in input element? That sounds like a pretty big problem, but we'll see. Do you have a course on Vue 3 with Pinya? I have a Vue 3 course. I updated my course for Vue 3 when it was released, but I do not cover Pinya in there yet. Maybe in the future, but got no concrete plans for that right now. What is your opinion on 10-stack Start? Looks pretty interesting. I think whenever I read something about it, people seem to like it, but I personally have not explored it, so I don't know. I have no opinion on it yet. Is your MERN course on Udemy up to date? No. I mean, it will still work, but it was not explicitly updated for React 19, for example. Can we use React Query and in React Native? I actually never did, but I'm pretty sure you can, yeah. Lynx was underwhelming. Yeah, my first impressions are also mixed, to put it like that. Okay, so yeah, we cannot build our own components by composing. We know that. Okay, styling. So this is the interesting part, because I'm still not sure if they like support CSS in general or just like a subset of CSS properties. CSS are used to style and lay out Lynx pages. For example, you can change the font color, size, and position of the content, split the content into multiple columns, add animations or other. Yeah, sure. In addition, Lynx provides numerous properties starting with -x- to help you achieve stylish designs, I guess, more easily. Okay, so they definitely have extra CSS properties. I'm just still not sure if they support all the default CSS properties. Yeah, so in general, of course, we have like the selectors or the properties here we already know. We can do inline styling, but we can also apply classes, and then we can have class selectors, as it seems, and I would guess ID selectors and so on. Can I add an ID? Is this possible? Yeah, ID is supported, so I guess that would work too. And is there no input element? I think my IDE doesn't complain because it sees that this is JSX and thinks that, yeah, there is an input element, but this is the web input element. But I think I'll get an error here. Okay, yeah, it crashed. It crashed entirely. Okay, so let's reopen this. So like the development experience could be a bit better. That I have to copy and paste this URL. Or maybe I just don't know how to do it in a better way. Yeah, and this crashes instantly because I guess it does not have an input element. But it's not a great experience to have to restart that and then restart that and then paste that in. And it crashes again. Why is that? I did remove the input. What's the problem? Is this still running? No. Okay. I don't even know what the problem is now. It worked before. Not anymore, as it seems. Well, I'll just switch back to the dock. So I have like a deja vu with like last week where I also was pretty confident that I could achieve quite a bit more with AI when I tried to use it to build a mobile app than I was able to achieve. Now again, I was pretty confident that we could like play around with Lynx, build some stuff, and I struggled with the tutorial. Now the simulator or the app won't run anymore, but yeah, we'll just focus on the docs here. But I have a feeling that I won't be using Lynx too much in the near future. Maybe we'll see where it goes. Now that it's open source, maybe things will get better quickly. That is absolutely possible. And maybe I'm also just having some bad luck here, or I'm missing things. Oh, the button element is the problem. Oh, true, that doesn't exist either. Good call. Thank you so much, Eric. You're right. Still, like, it would have been nice if it told me somewhere instead of just crashing the app and being totally broken. Yeah, but now it's working again. So thank you so much, Eric. You were right. But I assume there also is no input element. Okay, as we can nest, we have the CSS cascade. Okay. So generally it's CSS. I just don't know if it's all we can use in CSS, but doesn't matter. Understanding layout. Lynx provides properties such as width, height, margin, and padding are used to describe the size of elements. Yeah, sure, like in... So this is all CSS, right? We can position stuff. We can use flexbox, if I understand this here correctly. We can use grid layout. Yeah, that is all. This is basically... This is a CSS guide now. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's all CSS, as it seems. Managing scrolling. Overflow behavior occurs when the content of an element exceeds the size of the element itself. During the process of building a page, it is inevitable to encounter situations of overflow. You could use the overflow property to crop the overflowing content or use a scrollable element. So I guess that's the same like in... Yeah, okay, so we can't set overflow scroll in CSS. It's like similar to React Native. If you want scrolling on your screen, you can't assume that it just works like it does in the browser. Instead, in React Native, you deliberately have to add a component that supports scrolling, and it looks like it's the same here. You have to add a scroll view if you want to have content. Excuse me, if you want to have content that is scrollable. So that's very similar. List to manage large amounts of data. It's also similar. Like in React Native, we have flat list was the name. We have flat list, and we also have community solutions in React Native for high performance lists. And the idea here really is that only the items that are currently visible are being rendered. I assume it's the same here for Lynx. Like for performance reasons, we don't want to render items or like have items in memory that aren't really needed right now, because they're not visible. Okay, that makes sense. Scripting interactions, event handling. Yeah, so because I was missing a button, they are really like building a button. The world's ugliest button, I will say. But they're really building it basically with a view. And then it's not on something, as it seems, as it would be in React and probably most JSX-based libraries and frameworks, but instead bind tab points at a function that will be executed. Okay. So that means for my app here, I can add a view, click me, or does this work, or do I need to wrap this with a text? I guess we'll find out. Bind tab. And we also got some other binds. So bind is basically like on, as it seems, but it's all lowercase then. Handle text change, like this. Oops, handle text change. And let's see if that works. I guess I need to wrap this in a text. Okay, this does not work. But did I need to wrap this? Yeah, it does not show up if it's not wrapped, but now it's showing up, but I still... Either I can't click it or handle text change is not doing what I want it to do. Does this work? Do I get logs? At least not here. Or this is not getting fired. But here they also have like a function, handle tab, and they assign it like this to the view. So looks similar to what I tried here, to be honest. I mean, I can just copy that. That should work, right? Is it not called bind tab here? Oh, the type of event is wrong. Type E touch event is not assignable to base touch event. Type of parameters E and event are incompatible. So should this be... am I missing the import? Do I need the import touch event? This one? Probably. Okay, that's it. So now... Oh. Okay, let's restart. Okay, we got an error. App was not found. Export default function app. Oh, I'm having a named import here, don't I? Okay, let's change this. Let's maybe restart again. This is a great development experience, I'll say. Okay, this is working. I have no idea why bind tab did not work for me before. Maybe I had a typo or something like that, but now it's working. How to be better at CSS. I can never wrap my head around positions, M's, rems, and so on. Yeah, so I will say CSS is like, has way too many things. I probably also only know 30-40% of CSS. As always, it's basically like practice that makes perfect. But the thing is, I also use the same CSS rules and properties all the time. So I probably miss out on a lot of new stuff, new units, new features that I could use. And the only way to really learn about that, unfortunately, is to dive into MDN, explore what's there, play around with the things. If you don't like that, using frameworks like Tailwind and or AI to generate your CSS code is probably the best thing to do, to be honest, because or you do it like me and you use the same set of features over and over again, combined with Tailwind and so on. Okay, so that's how we can listen to events. Makes sense. Just a bit weird that they went for bind event name instead of on event name, which we have in React, but sure. Listen for user clicks. When a user clicks on a page, the system triggers a tap event. Yeah, and then this propagates and so on. Okay, as shown in the figure, developers can choose to handle the event in the main thread or the background thread. Oh, okay. When timely event response is not required, you can choose to handle the event in the background thread, and the event processing of the background thread will not block the main thread. Interesting. When timely event response is required, you can choose to handle the event in the main thread, which can avoid event delays. That's interesting. So, specifically, if developers want to listen to the click of a certain node, they can set the event handler property to this. That's what we did. If the event handling function runs on the main thread, you need to add an addition. Okay, so by default, this will run in the background thread, as I understand it. If I want it to run in the main thread where it could block the UI, I would add this. And now I'm getting an error. But that's from the documentation. It's because of the dash, isn't it? Okay. Maybe we can just ignore the error here in the editor. Whoa. No. Type error, not an object. What is not an object? But what is lepus ng? Gosh, I have no idea. Okay. Guess we're not going to run this on the main thread. I did not want to do that anyways. Oh, I can click anywhere. It does not have to be that button. Makes sense because it's that outer view. What if I put it on that inner view here? Yeah, now it's just a button. Okay, that all makes sense. But no main thread for me, I guess. Anything like Tailwind or Nativewind or CSS file, do you know? I have no idea which, if Lynx supports any frameworks like Tailwind. I'm trying it for the first time today. I have unfortunately no idea. And yeah, I'm the guy from the Udemy courses. Great to have you here. Okay. So we can handle events. I just can't handle it on the main thread because this code, which they're showing here, does not seem to work for me. For reasons I don't know. And unfortunately, I will say, like, the debugging experience is not that great. So hard to tell what's failing here. But in theory, which is cool. I mean, it's not cool that it's in theory, but in theory we could decide whether it should run on the main thread or the background thread, which of course is interesting. I could see that being useful, where you have certain things, probably most things, that should run in the background, that should not interfere with the UI. Like if you're sending some HTTP request, you can do that in the background. And once you get the response, you can then trigger a UI update, which will run on that main thread. But at no point do you block that main thread. I see that being useful, definitely. Background thread event processing. For the event processing function of the background thread, developers cannot directly operate the node through, but obtain a node reference through selector query. Okay, so if I want to get hold of an element here in an event handler that runs on the background thread, I have to do it like this. Okay, so yeah. So that's the thing. I understand why this is necessary. Like this code here runs in the background thread, which is not connected to the UI thread. It's a separate thread. And I guess internally what happens is that if I tap this button, some message is dispatched and sent to that thread. And therefore, if on that thread I want to interact with UI stuff, which is on a different thread, I have to get access to that UI stuff through some Lynx APIs because there is no direct connection. That's how I understand it here. So yeah, that's kind of the downside of having this multi-threaded thing, right? So certain things that should be trivial aren't trivial anymore. Of course, that's not too bad either. It's like an extra loop you have to go through in your head, at least. But okay, makes sense. Event propagation. Yeah, not too interested in that right now. Direct manipulation of elements. In daily development, modern front-end frameworks handle most element tree and node property updates for us, right? We use them in a declarative way. So in React, we typically don't directly manipulate elements. But it can sometimes be necessary. Yeah, that's a good example. Like controlling media players. If you have like a video element in your React app and you want to like start or stop the video playback programmatically, you have to use a ref and you have to interact with that element. So that is a typical scenario where declaratively you might not be able to get things to work the way you want them to work. And you can use refs here as well, as it seems. Yeah. Now, I guess... yeah, so here we probably also have to like invoke and exec because this is running on the background thread, I guess, not on the main thread, I would assume. Yeah, it's the background thread, so we have to like again have this more clunky way of interacting with it, I guess. Okay, but yeah, makes sense so far. Manipulating elements in the main thread. If you want better performance and more intuitive code, so not this clunkiness, you can consider manipulating elements in the main thread. Oh, it's Next.js. We start adding directives to functions again. So that's also interesting. So this function, handle tab, is running on the main thread because we got main-thread in front of bind tab. That's the code that didn't work for me before. But then it looks like here we also need that main thread directive in the function. Or is this just like, is this needed or is it like a comment? Node operations need to be written in main thread functions. Okay, so this is a main thread function, I assume, because we have the main thread directive in there, this thing. Okay. Oh, and it's a main thread ref. It's not a regular thread. So I guess unsurprisingly, this works the way it always works. If you're dealing with multi-threading, no matter which programming language it is, it always means you have to really know what you're doing. You have to write code that is explicitly optimized or that's explicitly using those multi-threading features. It's always like this. And of course it makes sense that it's always like this. But there is no magic going on here. And I thought initially that maybe Lynx does like, maybe it decides automatically which tasks to push to the main thread and which tasks to push to the background thread, which I guess would be dangerous, which is why they're not doing it or something like that. But yeah, you have to like really write different code if you want to work on the main thread versus the background thread, which is the default. But yeah, it is what it is. If it's not React Native, it's already better. I'm not sure, but sure, if you don't like I'm not sure if you, I think if you don't like React Native, I'm not sure if you'll like Lynx, because I'm afraid there are enough similarities that you probably won't like it either. We're all tired with React Native debugging and updating to new versions. Yeah, true. Both are painful. Though I will say the debugging experience with Lynx has also not super pleasant thus far. The type of event object is causing issue. Okay. I guess I should have changed that when switching to the main thread. Well, we'll see. I I don't know why, but I love Lynx. Yeah, fair enough. I'm only getting started with it. I will say, like, getting started, it feels a bit clunky, but it's also different on a stream, of course, than if I would like build this on my own. I would like go way faster through stuff, which might make it more pleasant too, or less problematic. I mean, what you said regarding the event object, I can try it again. For the main thread, I mean, here they just mentioned that I should add this in front of it, but maybe you need to change more to make that main thread stuff work. Yeah, just as you said it. So yeah, I wanna give this a try. Main thread, and then here it's main thread touch event. Ah, yeah, good call. Thank you so much. Now this error is gone. And now I would need to adjust this code here too, maybe? This set state code? I'm not sure. Maybe that also needs to look differently if it's running on the main thread now. I'll try restarting this app here just to make sure that my changes are loaded. I got again this type error. The error in the IDE is actually gone, but it's still not happy. Oh, I also need to add this, right? Type error, not a function. So I'm not sure what exactly is not a function. I'm getting closer, definitely, but I'm not sure how I should call set state in a main thread function. Looks like that would have to work differently, or I'm not sure. So the big takeaway is that you have like this very different code, and that you have to like explicitly decide if it's the main thread or the background thread, which makes sense. And of course, the upside is, I guess, like having that decision power and the background thread being the default, which is like a good default, I would guess, gives you that fine-grained control which you arguably need to achieve the best performance possible, in theory at least. Okay. Yeah, visibility detection, not too interested in that. Networking. Okay, we can use fetch as it seems. The fetch API, which we know from the browser. Looks very similar here. So yeah, here they're just using useEffect to like fetch some posts, update some state. And I assume this is all happening in the background, on the background threads here. And then they update the UI declaratively with useState in the end, or through useState in the end. So that looks fairly familiar. I want to give that a try. I'll just grab this. Like this, convert it to a regular function. And then for the post type, it's this one here. And then for useEffect, I'll import that. And then I'll restart this, hoping that it'll work. To be fair, I could have installed the Lynx DevTools. I see why they recommend this. Okay, yeah, so that's data fetching. Scrolling doesn't work, which is weird. I have a scroll view. Maybe because this class is not there. Let's grab this SCSS code, paste it in there, and I guess I can manually convert it to regular CSS here. If I'm not mistaken, that should be the CSS equivalent, like this. Yeah, now it's scrollable. So the scroll view on its own, as it seems, does not give us scrolling. Instead, it needs probably a clearly defined height, I guess. So 100 VH is like the height of the available height of the device we're on, of the screen this is on. And maybe this flex stuff is also important. No, does not look like it. Okay. Okay, yeah, but that's how network fetching works then. Yeah, I believe either run on main thread or run on background. Yeah, possible. Yeah, Anonymous, you don't need to spam your message 10,000 times. That's really not necessary. I do occasionally go through the chat and answer. So yeah, Salesforce, developer job, future opportunities growth. I'm not sure what you exactly want to hear. I don't work at Salesforce. If you're referring to their statement that they're not going to hire developers, yeah, I'll just block you. Sorry, don't need that. If you meant their statement regarding not hiring developers anymore, I think I created a video on that. Essentially, if you go to their careers page, you'll see like hundreds of open job postings. So there's that. But I don't work at Salesforce. Yeah, and I blocked you. Okay, yeah, so this network stuff, not too interesting. Instant first frame rendering, that is interesting because that's something they mentioned on their blog as like one of their killer features, I think. Lynx supports instant first frame rendering, which means that your page can display content directly when it is loaded without a white screen or other intermediate states. This is usually achieved on the web in a way similar to server-side rendering, but Lynx's innovative dual-thread architecture makes it much easier. Your application code runs in Linux, I keep on saying Linux, in Lynx JavaScript runtime and will run simultaneously on two threads. The main thread and the background thread. If the data is ready at the beginning, your application code should be able to render the first screen content directly on the main thread. So basically by outsourcing tasks to the background thread, they can perform work on both threads at the same time and basically like prepare everything on the main thread and then just like show it instantly instead of first fetching data on the main thread and then rendering the UI. I guess that's what they're saying. So basically like they are able to like render the UI and fetch the data for it in parallel, I guess, which of course is pretty good. Basic example. In the following example, we simulate a complex rendering through an intensive mathematical calculation. Although the rendering takes some time, obviously longer than the interval of frames, Lynx completes the rendering synchronously on the main thread, avoiding the UI intermediate state and achieves instant first frame. So they start the app here, and then it's there instantly. Okay, yeah. I see that, of course, as being useful, especially like this coming from the company behind TikTok, where they obviously like need to render stuff instantly all the time, and with stuff I mean things like videos where you like need to start streaming and where you want to do that, of course, whilst also playing a nice transition animation. And so being able to like do one thing on the background thread and the other on the main thread, it makes a lot of sense. And I see why they like build something like Lynx, because obviously if you optimize everything for just this performance thing, for this problem where you never want to like block UI work, that of course is better, I would assume, than using the solutions you have on the market like React Native, which don't have that hardcore optimization built in. TikTok also released an AI code editor. Have you checked that? I heard about it. I have not tried it though. Okay. So, yeah. I would guess this instant first frame rendering is something, of course, pretty much all apps can benefit from in theory. I also would guess, though, that for many apps, it won't really matter. And I mean, it's always funny. This has nothing to do with Lynx. I sometimes feel like we have a lot of like posts and thoughts, also by big companies, about how crucial it is to have great performance. Like maybe you also know that like Amazon or and not Amazon, that Google like has all these measures for how fast a website loads and how important that is to keep customers. And I'm sure to some degree this is true. But then we've all been there where you just need to use a certain app or service. And I don't just mean like government services or online banking where you don't have that many alternatives maybe, but also like if you want to use X because that's where all the people you follow post on, you will use it no matter if it loads for 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 1 second initially, I guess, right? So that's always like the thing I find a bit funny about all these performance optimizations. Now, obviously, I see the use case for something like TikTok where you want to like keep all the people in the app, keep on scrolling, and where bad performance could really like kick them out of it. You don't want to like wait for the next video to load for 3 seconds. You'll just leave. I definitely see that. But I'm just saying it does not matter for all apps all the time, I guess. What do you think about Tauri.js for creating apps? Also have not used that because there's just too much stuff to explore, but sounds promising too. I mean, using Rust is like almost like a buzzword these days, but of course also has the potential of giving you really good performance, I guess. So yeah, but it hasn't really like gained a lot of traction, I feel. I personally also haven't used it. Okay, so let's see. We can build beautiful stuff, as it seems. Background and borders. So again, okay, this is again CSS. So I assume they don't support like all CSS features because if they were, they probably wouldn't have to highlight what exactly you can build and which CSS properties you'd use for that. I assume they support like all the standard ones, which you use all the time, like margins, paddings, shadows, obviously, and rounded corners. But I would also assume that they're maybe not supporting all the newer or more niche features. No sound. So you can't hear me? I think sound should be there. And there is no sound from the website, if you mean that. So unless everyone else tells me that there is no sound, I fear that might be a problem on your end. What about job market? Sound is fine. Okay, thank you, Sish. What about job market? Job market is, of course, still difficult. I hope it will pick up. But of course, yeah, there have been massive layoffs, and like the general economy still doesn't look like super stable. So there have been better times, obviously. But I don't want to turn this like into a talk about the job market. Instead, let's dive deeper into Lynx. I find the animation parts a bit more interesting than the CSS parts, to be honest. or I guess this is also CSS, but I'm not interested in achieving rounded corners. I find it interesting that you can use CSS for animations, though. Because I would assume that Lynx basically implements their own CSS parser or interpreter, and that they like compile the animation related CSS code to something that gives you very performant native animations. That would be my assumption, or my what I would guess, but let's see if they tell us. Lynx offers extensive motion capabilities, allowing developers to create modern, smooth, and intuitive user interfaces. Utilizing these features, developers can produce stunning transition effects and natural motion feedback. Yeah. You can use transitions. Yeah, so like in CSS, transitions are triggered automatically. So in CSS, you also just say, hey, transition all color related effects or all animatable effects in general, and then you can define a duration and a easing function, and the browser will do it automatically for you. And looks like that's the same here in Lynx, where it also allows you to add such a transition property and tell it, hey, the background color, if it changes, should be animated over 0.5 seconds. So going back to my code, if I go back to what I had before, and I go back to the background thread version, where I'm changing that background color here, I should be able to like define a transition here and say background color. So if that changes, transition it over 0.5 seconds. So for over half a second. Yeah, and now we see that the background color is not changing instantly, but we have like a smooth transition. And I'm really not sure why they made this button that ugly. Let me fix that. Won't be beautiful, but hey, why is this red? Oh, that's why. Yeah. Let's say click me. Let's give it a font weight of bold, I guess. Yeah, bit better. Actually, it will be even better if I change this to white and this to black, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so now we transition the background color. And it's pretty cool that this is built in, that it's that easy to like animate changes between styles. Okay, great to hear. You can all hear me. Thank you so much. Great feedback. Achieve stunning effects with keyframes. So I guess that's regular animations. Yeah, like also like in CSS, you can also define more more complex. I need to drink. You can define more complex animations by defining keyframes. And then you can like define a starting state and an end state and intermediate states. And you can then trigger that chain of keyframes whenever a certain element becomes visible, for example, or stuff like that. So here, for example, the opacity change keyframe series, this one here, where we go from full opacity to half opacity over half the time. This is triggered whenever this CSS class is added to an element. And here it looks like this is added right from the start, and then this is played as an infinite animation. But you could also like play it as a one-time animation, and then it would become active as soon as this class is added somewhere. So I guess we can also like give that a try and add keyframes, blink, and go from 0% opacity 0 to 100% opacity 1, and then add a new CSS class, blink. The name could also be different, and then trigger that blink animation over 0.5 seconds, let's say. And if I do it like this, so I could add a new state here. Is blinking, set is blinking, and it won't really blink initially, but that's okay. And let's set this to false initially, but then here when we click the button, I'll change that to true. And then I want to go to that outer view, let's say, and add a class. And if is blinking is true, then I want to add that blinking class. And otherwise, I'll add no class. And now in theory, I should have some animation when I click that button. Okay, yeah, I guess I have the color animation. Let's actually like change from full opacity to 0. I would have assumed that this... Oh, I called it blink, not blinking. CSS class is called blink. Yeah, but still, I would have expected that this should have an effect and should actually like play an animation over 0.5 seconds and make this invisible. So I'm not sure, but it's not the first time that things don't work the way I want them to work here, I guess. And I think it's class, not class name, right? Oh. There was the animation. But only briefly. So it briefly played here after the hot reload essentially, but that was it. Is blinking. Maybe we need to restart again. Though it's also not too important, of course. I just would have liked to see. Yeah, okay, now it worked after restarting. Yeah, so that's what I meant. If I click this, it only worked for the first time though, because thereafter the class is applied and I do not play this animation infinitely here. But if I say alternate and infinite, then in theory we should have that blinking effect, where if I click this, it fades out and fades in and fades out again. So yeah, that is like a CSS animation. I'm still so confused about how is it possible that they can bring full support to CSS to native. Like, yeah, that is also the thing I find quite confusing, because I don't think they have full support, but I have not found the information in their docs yet if they have full support or not, because you're absolutely right. Full support would really mean that you need to handle every single CSS property, because this is of course not running in a browser, so it doesn't know all that CSS stuff. They have to essentially compile all these CSS properties to native instructions for iOS and Android, and they have to support all CSS properties if they want to support all of CSS, and I don't think either that they do that, but I have not read about that yet. Yeah, sure. So animations, that's pretty neat. Theming can be done with help of CSS variables, I think. At least that is something I read earlier in their blog, I guess. The catch with Lynx is not just the CSS. I would say that's not the important part. The main thing is the performance. Like, their main pitch is that they have great performance because they basically have two threads, a main thread and a background thread. And by default, all the events, all the user interactions seems to run not the user interaction. All the events you handle seem to run on the background thread, and they reserve the main thread for all the UI updates and for all the interactivity, but you can deliberately also push things to the main thread if you want them to be handled there. And this two-threaded design and this control you have over what runs where, that allows you to achieve great performance and especially great UI animations, transitions, and so on. But yeah, it is very similar to React Native. You write JSX code, components, stuff like that. So the main difference is that performance thing, according to them, if I understand it correctly. Okay. Debugging. Yeah, maybe I should have read that first. So that debugging tool seems rather important because like the development experience without it was not great, as you saw. It probably would have been better with that tool. Good learning for the future. Performance, evaluation, JavaScript runtime. So yeah, what they ship is their own JavaScript runtime. The dual-threaded architecture. Oh, they got a lot of information about that, right? That's good. And they have an extra page for React Lynx, which is their own React version for Lynx. Oh, that's also interesting. Yeah, and here you see that about the main thread or the background thread. And yeah, I guess you can also like add native code if you need to, just as you can in React Native, for example, and Flutter and all these solutions. Yeah. So React Lynx is an idiomatic React, whatever they mean with that. And they ship their own JavaScript engine too for that multi-threading. Okay, so their own React is basically optimized for that dual-threaded environment. Idiomatic React, React Lynx is an implementation of React. Under the hood, it is based on Preact. Okay, so Preact, in case you don't know, is that way smaller copy or version of React. So it has all the React features, but it's way smaller. And of course, it is way smaller because it's missing many of the extra steps React is taking under the hood to, for example, also like prioritize rendering and so on. I would guess. I've never explored the Preact codebase, but it has to be something like this. Because I'm pretty sure the React codebase is not bigger because they decided to put a lot of unnecessary stuff in there. But React Lynx is basically their own React based on top of Preact. So they extended Preact to support that dual threading, I guess. Okay, yeah. So we don't use React, but Lynx React, we saw that. There is no DOM. Lynx engine provides a set of low-level element APIs that allow framework developers to create UI through JavaScript running on the main thread, but this set of APIs is not open to all developers. Lynx encourages developers to use declarative methods to build UI as much as possible, rather than directly manipulating the DOM. Yeah, so that's the same in React too. Yeah, you don't want to directly manipulate the DOM imperatively. You want to instead use React to declaratively do that. Your code runs on 2 threads. So that was probably useful information here to make sure you get things right, especially when handling events, because that is what I was struggling with. I made a couple of PRs for them with doc stuff. Yeah, I think that will be very helpful because you can tell that they actually did put quite a lot of effort in general into the docs. Like there are a lot of pages, a lot of details about like the CSS and animation stuff, which is great. But then again, there are like issues like their tutorial, which is like the main entry point, where suddenly they tell you, hey, here's a component and now we can see this on the screen. And you can't see it unless you change a bunch of other stuff too. There is no natural connection between their quick start and the tutorial. And like that whole main thread thing, when they introduce it, it should really be highlighted what changes between the main thread and background thread, how you need to adjust your code. Like these are the main things that are different from React Native, I guess. So yeah, it really needs to be explained. And obviously, if I really wanted to learn this, I would now dive deeply into this document here. I would really just play around a bunch with it and you would eventually get there. But with a more beginner-friendly or easier to understand documentation, they could probably attract more people playing around with it. Some code can only run on the background thread here. So actually, I'm already running out of time here. So I will not go through all of that, but this document here sounds very interesting. It is definitely something I will go through off screen to understand that whole dual threading again and to understand how I can decide how I control in detail which code runs where and how I need to adjust the code if it's running in the background versus the main thread. Do you think there is a chance for the framework to implement something like Expo? Because the only thing I enjoy about Expo is its ease of use and App Store implementation. I guess we'll see. It's totally impossible for me to tell how much traction Lynx will gain, if any. I mean, React Native is pretty big, pretty popular, and I have a hard time imagining that Lynx will capture a significant amount of React Native developers anytime soon. Because like that dual threaded performance stuff sounds great, and I do believe them if they say that they might have way better performance than React Native. And of course, we all want great, we all want apps that perform great and are amazing, right? But what I also said before, in reality, that cutting edge performance gain you can get with Lynx maybe, which you maybe can't get that easily with React Native. Will it really matter for you and your app? And with React Native, you of course get an established ecosystem, tons of third-party libraries, and as you said, Expo, which is not loved by everyone, I know, but which of course, as you said, makes development much easier and very convenient. And we'll see how much traction Lynx can gain. I mean, obviously it's getting used by ByteDance internally. That's a pretty big customer. But then again, they might not need to make it super convenient to use because they're using it internally either way, right? So they don't need to like win over their internal teams. So hard to tell where it will be in a couple of months and years, I guess. But yeah, that's that. I'll wrap it up here. I'll say I hoped we could get a bit more into the code, but for that I would have to understand that whole dual threading and how to adjust the code a bit better, which is probably not super hard. It's just something that I did not fully get from their tutorial, and so I would have to go through that document here probably, but doesn't matter. I'll play around with it off screen. Not sure. I will probably not use it a lot in the near future, but good to have competition, I guess. Good to have competition, and we'll see where it goes. So yeah, the Node.js course in 2025 still good and will get very likely even better because I definitely do plan to update it this year, but I got no concrete date yet. And in general, I don't like promising things here because life can always get into your way, but yeah, course is good and will hopefully get even better. So that's it for the stream. Thank you so much everyone for joining in. I will probably have another stream next week. In general, I try to have like streams on Thursdays, so maybe we see us each other again there. I'm not sure which topic I'll cover there. Not Lynx. We'll see. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you liked it. I hope you'll have a great rest of your day, night, evening, morning, whatever it is. And yeah, maybe I see you in future streams. Bye.